Election Countdown, taking America back on band.video and infowars.com. If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
But we are ready. I feel very confident that Joe Biden will be elected president on Tuesday, whatever the end count is, but on the election that occurs on Tuesday, he will be elected. On January 20th, he will be inaugurated president of the United States.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this emergency Friday night broadcast. The globalists are trying to overthrow the country right now. That is going on at a very high level because they know that Trump's going to win the election. We're going to have Harrison Smith coming here a little bit later to take over. I just wanted to be here to kick off the start of the broadcast with you tonight. Again, Infowars.com and Newswars.com are the websites. Brace for civil war. We're delivering an emergency message here on Friday night. And I have really tried my best over the years to build this organization and be on air here. There's a lot of complexity that the public just can't handle. And that's why technology is not a bad thing overall. It's also destructive because it's just too complex for the general person to understand or deal with. We're going to do some special shows tomorrow on the Saturday transmissions, and I'll be back Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. We're going to have, like I said, Harrison Smith in here taking over, but Nancy Pelosi has come out and said that she is going to contest the election, even if Trump clearly wins. She says Biden will be put in power, and that's the end of it. Here's what she had to say.
But we are ready. I feel very confident that Joe Biden will be elected president on Tuesday, whatever the end count is, but on the election that occurs on Tuesday, he will be elected. On January 20th, he will be inaugurated president of the United States.
All right, Harrison Smith is going to be taking over here in just a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen. And so you'll definitely want to stay with us for that. But I thought we would go to this important report. It is clip 5, devastating. Giuliani confirms child porn pedophilia on Hunter Biden's laptop. And that's why the system's so desperate. That's why they are so incredibly scared right now. And so we're going to air this report that Harrison Smith is going to be taking over tonight. And then we're able to keep this operation on air, which I'm not sure. I will be back tomorrow with special reports during the day on the Saturday transmission. So here is that report, and we'll be back with Harrison Smith. Thank you. President Trump just confirmed what Rudolph Giuliani has been laying out. They are set to release what we broke 2 weeks ago, evidence of Hunter Biden engaged in sex acts with underage minors, and it's all breaking right now.
And we have what's called the laptop from hell. The laptop from hell. From what I've understood, you only have seen a tiny portion of it. But you know what the press is now doing? They're blaming Russia. It's Russia that did it. Russia's the one that created the laptop.
I told you there are underage girls there. There are. I told you there are documents that show that he's getting 10%. There are. There are documents that show that he's getting half of what Hunter gets. There are.
You can say what you want about Rudolph Giuliani. He was pro-war when I wasn't pro-war. But no one can deny that he is a former respected federal prosecutor that brought down the mob in New York. He is not the Steele dossier that the Clintons paid for that was proven to be fake day one and never showed one real piece of evidence. So when Giuliani came out 2 weeks ago with Chinese dissidents who had seen the laptop and reported that it showed pedophilia, showed illegal acts with Hunter Biden and others, you knew it was accurate. He's never put out defamation like that. That would destroy his name forever. Then the media tried to claim, oh, it's Russian disinfo. But U.S. intelligence came out and said, no, it's real from this laptop shop in Delaware. And so now, 2 weeks later, they don't deny that the laptop is real. They just hope you forget about it. But it's not just a laptop. In a moment, we're going to play the audio that came out over a week ago with no coverage, which is confirmed, the Bidens haven't denied it, of Hunter Biden talking about getting $1 million from the head of Chinese intelligence. He talks about how the Southern District of New York is investigating him in a criminal case and how scared he is. All of this is happening. And then on top of it, National File came out over a week ago. They've confirmed this is accurate as well, with Joe Biden's daughter talking about sexual abuse and other bizarre behavior, drug abuse, you name it. This is a family of very degenerate, insane drug addicts who are clearly mentally ill. And that's why they're the perfect group for corrupt organizations in the U.S. and in China to recruit them and control them. So here's what Giuliani said 2 weeks ago. A clip of this is on our video, seen more than 3.3 million times at man.video. And then we'll play a large part of the exchange where Giuliani was on with Lisa Kennedy on Fox News last night. And she was trying to say again, he's like the Steele dossier that's been proven to be total fraud, when what he's laid out has been proven to be real. Because the media can't deny this information. They can just try to call it disinformation without ever actually addressing it, because this information will bring down not just the Bidens, but the entire deep state.
And when you look at these photographs that are disgusting and horrible, the Chinese have every single one of them. The Chinese have every single one of them, probably 10 times more. Because what the Chinese government has been doing, and a country was totally undefended against this, is setting Biden up, putting him in a position where he's totally compromised. They've now given him so much money, he's totally compromised. They now have pictures of his son doing things that I can't describe, some of which are illegal.
And some could say that you were acting like Christopher Steele, that you were abstracting information, and because...
You got to be kidding me. I was acting like Christopher Steele?
That's what it sounds like when you look at the people that...
You better apologize for that. I mean, I've been a United States attorney, associate attorney general, mayor of New York City, and a member of the bar for 50 years. I've never been accused of anything, and you're accusing me of being Christopher Steele?
I'm accusing you of
That's
acting in a
outrageous that you would do
capacity
that based on nothing.
similar to Christopher Steele, and that
Similar
you
to
were
a
going
crook?
back and forth between
Similar to
Ukraine
an obstruction of justice?
and the United
What you are
States.
saying is an outrageous defamation of me, of my reputation. Every single thing is here. And I want you to look at it, and then you apologize to me.
Look at it.
Well, you can come to my office and you can look at it, and tomorrow night you can apologize to me for saying I'm like Christopher Steele. I told you there are underage girls there. There are. I told you there are documents that show that he's getting 10%. There are. There are documents that show that he's getting half of what Hunter gets. There are. And when they're there, I want you to apologize to me because you just defamed me.
Absolutely.
And that's outrageous because you have no basis for that. I came on your show in good faith to give you evidence that is being withheld from the American people, and I get defamed. That's outrageous.
We are only a few days away from the election. And my White House sources, as well as Fox News sources, tell me that by tomorrow, more information is about to break concerning the Hunter Biden laptop that dwarfs anything that's been released so far.
And we have what's called the laptop from hell. The laptop from hell. From what I've understood, you only have seen a tiny portion of it.
Also breaking, James Rosen of Sinclair Broadcasting is now reporting that a criminal investigation by the FBI has officially been opened into the Biden crime family.
A Justice Department official confirmed to Sinclair that back in 2019, the FBI opened up a criminal investigation into Hunter Biden and his associates that is focused on allegations of money laundering and remains open and active today.
We're about to play audio of Hunter Biden talking about working with the head of Chinese intelligence. And now emails have been confirmed to be his, where he gives wiring instructions to the Chi-Com spy chief on where to send the money. Ladies and gentlemen, history is happening right now, and this entire house of criminal cards is coming down.
I get calls from my father to tell me that the New York Times is calling, but my old partner, Eric, who literally has done me harm for I don't know how long, is the one taking the calls because my father will not stop sending the calls to Eric. I have another New York Times reporter calling about my representation of the, literally, Dr. Patrick Koh, the spy chief of China, who started the company that my partner, who was worth $323 billion, founded, and is now missing. The richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner. He was missing since I last saw him in his $58 million apartment and signed a $4 billion deal to build the largest LNG port in the world. And I am receiving calls from the Southern District of New York, from the U.S. Attorney himself. My best friend in business, Devin, has named me as a witness without telling me in a criminal case, and my father without telling me.
We're only 4 days out from the most historic election in world history. And to see big tech attempting to censor this information is absolutely damning evidence that they are colluding with and working with not just the traitors in our government and the bureaucracy, but the communist Chinese themselves. But we, the American people, understood what was happening when the censorship intensified 3 years ago, and we set up organizations like Band.video, where this report and others are hosted. So you can share it on your email, share it on your instant message, and share it by word of mouth, and also on Facebook, Twitter, Google, and you name it. But if you don't share this information, Biden has a chance of being able to steal this election. So please, research this info for yourself. There's so much more that we can't even have time to cover, and then get it out to everyone you know, because you are the modern Paul Revere's. Whether you be black, white, old, or young, I salute you. Good luck, and God bless.
We told you what was going to happen, and it did. Now we're telling you what's coming. What's coming. Band.video.
Welcome back,
There are
ladies
many
and gentlemen.
references in the Holy.
My name is Harrison Smith, and this is the 2020 election countdown here on Infowars.com, Band.video. Thank you so much for being here with us. It is the 30th of October, the year 2020. We are 4 days away from the election for presidency. Truly historic times that we're in right now. And quick note, first of all, happy birthday to my dad, who I understand is at this moment making his entire birthday party watch this program. So hello, everyone, and hopefully hopefully the news isn't too bad today. And it really isn't. We're 4 days away from the election. The numbers are looking pretty good. The Democrats are looking like they're playing defense. They are not making moves in places like Texas that they claim could go blue this election. If that were the case, they would be aggressively campaigning here. Instead, they're aggressively campaigning in places that they should have completely, that they should have no problem with, which means they're actually on the defense in this situation. So it's not looking too bad right now, but who knows? It could go absolutely crazy. And we've been telling you on this program and every program on InfoWars for a very long time that things are going to get very serious during and immediately following Election Day. And I have many, many stories to back that up, as more and more cities have told their police there will be no time off. You will be in riot gear on Election Day just in case, because they're pretty sure the information they have says there will be massive rioting. Now, obviously, this rioting could actually have an effect on the vote turnout, especially if these highly organized Antifa organizations choose to target red areas, red districts, and make it unsafe and make it difficult or even impossible for people to vote. And here we see a video, I believe this was from Philadelphia earlier today, and you see it's the state guards emerging from the truck. Now, this is sort of a combination with the riots that are ongoing and have been going on for the last couple of days, and in preparation for the election violence coming up. That might tell you more than anything else who is expected to win, because you know it's not the Republicans that are going to be out there rioting, because, well, frankly, it never is. But I want to go to a video very quickly. I have a lot of videos. Every time I come on, I want to play a lot of videos. So instead, I just put all of the videos from the week in one compilation. I hope you'll enjoy it. This is like 12 minutes in the mind of an info warrior throughout the week. So here it is, this week in video.
It's fun American. He's the all-American president, right? I mean, you have to have your head cemented in the sand not to vote for President Trump.
As president, I'll mandate mask wearing in all federal buildings and all interstate transportation.
Then I look up and you have over 10 people in a crowd.
So what?
We have a golden opportunity to seize something good from this crisis. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play.
Here's how you can spot a zombie. Look for someone who has a corpse-like appearance, exhibits aggressive behavior, craves human flesh, and utters incoherent moans and groans.
I don't know.
And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
No.
He said, sir, excuse me, sir, you've just tested positive. I said, tested positive for what? The hell do I have?
Peace and quiet. I live there.
Is Google influencing the election?
Yeah, but so there are many ways, right? I think the ads is one way.
Potentially, you can censor out news from your search engine.
What kind of country we're going to be? 4 more years of Georgia, he's going to find ourselves in a position where...
If you don't support Black Lives Matter, I'll break your kneecap.
Well, I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
Questions of controversy continue to tell you about Hunter Biden, your son's...
There is no controversy about my son. It's all a lie. It's a flat lie. Here's the deal. One of the things that is important is that keep in mind, although they're going to vote on Barrett, I think today.
Hey, all I gotta say is Trump 2020, bitch. I look like paying an extra 33 in tax for Biden, ass. Sleepy Joe, Trump 2020.
Left knows exactly how to bait black people because they use things like racism.
And I had to remind him that he was a black person, so he can't vote for Donald Trump.
So if we were to have a vacancy this year, we would fill it.
Somebody bring me back some money, please. I'm on to the next one. On to the next. I'm on to the next one.
Why did I have to have a freaking uterus? I need a husband to show me how to be an adult, how to function.
True international effort to pressure, isolate, and punish China. Folks, true international effort to pressure.
Nobody thinks he makes any sense. Nobody.
At 131,000 patients who are being considered COVID-19 deaths already had life-ending diseases, including cancer.
My representation of literally, Dr. Patrick Koh, the spy chief of China.
That man was crazy. He had a knife. He kept walking towards the police officers. He deserved it.
Put your shoulders down there. You know, solidarity.
Yo, start. Get the out. Get the
Revelation 2:9, the synagogue is saved.
Oh! He hit a cop!
I'm here. I'm not hurting anybody.
The FBI has said unequivocally that white nationalism is the greatest threat to American democracy.
Okay, so what I do is I literally get the vote. She didn't vote for who we wanted her to vote for.
I know.
But when it does happen, all they need to do is check the next person, put a line through it, put their initials, and that's done. The 10 ladies that I'm going to tomorrow, their ballots are going to be empty, okay? You know, and I'm going to have it already filled out of who I want. But right there is against the law for me to tell her, like, you realize you voted for...
You can't really
You're not
sway
supposed
them
to
like
say
that.
nothing. You know what? It's $8 per vote.
Do anything, and people are breaking into stores and walking out with washing machines and walking out with all sorts of things, and it shouldn't be allowed. That's no way to do it. You got to have law and order.
It looks like they're about to get into the sneaker store.
Yeah, I need some shoes.
And the hope is that that doesn't escalate into anything more than the peaceful protests that I think this kind of situation brings out.
I hate you dirty inbred white people. You have no melanin, you have no culture, and you motherfuckers been doing that since the beginning of time. So explain yourself.
Barry, who you voting for?
Donald J. Don Trump, the Don.
Why?
Because he's the best president since sliced bread.
That is funny.
The man do what he say he's gonna do. I never seen it yet in my life. Everything the man say he's gonna do, he do it. The man is a genius.
Does Twitter have the ability to influence elections?
No.
The issue is not that the companies before us today are taking too many posts down. The issue is that they're leaving too many dangerous posts up.
So somebody denies the Holocaust has happened is not misinformation.
It's misleading information, but we don't have a policy against that type of misleading information.
Millions of people died, and that's not a violation of Twitter. It's a
The election in November is the first one I could have voted in.
And they knew exactly what they were doing. They were dealing with a Chinese-owned, enterprise run by Chairman Yi, CFC, that had strong financial support and political support from the Chinese Communist Party.
The Biden-Harris bus is leading the Trump train. Woo!
we've got to double down very, very strongly on the things that I've been talking about with regard to the universal acceptance of masks, distancing, and avoiding crowds and congregate settings.
Bill, the data showed that everybody with a high dose had a side effect.
Yeah, but some of that is not dramatic, where, you know, it's just, you know, super painful. But
that is helping everyone.
Hi, I'm CJ Duran. I'm 13 years old and I'm gender creative. My gender identity is male and my gender expression is female.
So I take it you're not a Trump fan.
USA, USA, make America great, great again. Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump cho nhiệm kỳ này.
Why am I voting for Donald Trump? Because of you.
I'm talking to you, liberals.
Shut the up! You're really pushing it, you piece of Get a female police officer now! I am demanding you get a female police officer to help her, please.
How do you know they don't identify as female?
What?
Who are you voting for next Tuesday?
Guess who?
I think I know who.
I'm going to go in on a motorcycle and I'm going to have a good time.
Who do you think's going to win, by the way?
Donald Trump is going to win.
All right, that is 1 week, ladies and gentlemen, 1 week in the info war, 1 week in the campaigns of Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and the chaos and nonsense in Philadelphia and other cities, in solidarity with that knife-wielding psychopath. What a week it has been, and honestly, kind of short on news this week. Not super busy, just your average week, right? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 2020 election countdown on Infowars.com, band.video. My name's Harrison Smith. It is Friday, the 30th of October, the year 2020. We are 4 short days away from election night, and everything's heating up. Like I said, the numbers are looking pretty good, but you have to consider one thing. The Democrats are liars and cheaters and will do anything to win. We've seen evidence of this over the last 4 years, and electing Donald Trump is the best possible opportunity we will ever be presented with from now on in rubbing their face in it. Like a dog when he misbehaves. You don't wait for a couple years and then rub their face in it. You rub their face in it right then so they understand what they're being punished for. There needs to be some sort of recompense for what we've experienced over the last 4 years, the way that Democrats have actively sought to destroy our president, eliminate us from the ability to do commerce or have speech. It's all coming to a head on Tuesday, and we're so close to that. And obviously, now it's sort of accepted fact. Basically, everybody, doesn't matter how little you're involved with politics or the news media or anything like that, everybody recognizes that there's a great possibility for not just unrest, but full-blown civil war. And it's because the Democrats have been seeding the ground for this. They've been trying to put forward their narrative that says that Donald Trump will resist being removed from the office and he'll have to be escorted out by the military. They know Trump supporters won't stand for that. And of course, they've already put in all of their measures as to limiting free speech, not letting people come out and say, hey, Donald Trump won this election. They'll say, oh, no, we will decide who won the election and when. You can have the answer to that, and we will delete you if you dare say anything against it. So everybody knows it's coming. It is coming. So there's no excuse not to be prepared for this already, especially if you're watching this program. If you're an info warrior, you knew this was coming, so I really don't need to tell you, but we are 4 days away, so maybe final preparations are in order. But I want to not doom and gloom right now. I don't want to tell you that they're going to come try to burn your house down, because you know that. You know all of this to be true. Instead, what I want to do is show you a couple pitches, show you a couple just real life Trump voters telling you why they're voting for Donald Trump. And you've probably seen these videos. They've been pretty popular. There were a couple in that little compilation that I put together and that we showed in the previous segment. But I just want to show these in full because it really gives you a good view as to your average Trump supporter and who is drawn to Trump and why they're drawn to Trump. And I can sit here and spout off about Trump and why I support him and what he represents in the global conflict of globalism versus nationalism. I could go on and on, but maybe I'm not the most convincing person. Maybe one of these people, in just their honest expression of support for Donald Trump, will do more than an hour of me talking. So first I want to go to clip number 12. This is, and it's interesting, there's two, so I'll show you 4 videos. 2 of them are black men, and both of them had accents, which I think is kind of interesting, but that's just a little observation. So I'm not sure where this guy's accent is from, but it's great and he's awesome. And here it is, clip number 12. This is I think he's African. I think it may be a Nigerian accent, something like that. Sounds African to me, but it's great stuff. Very sweet. Here it is, clip number 12.
I support President Trump because I have been I've been working on the floor for many years when I came here in the United States in 2015, and all I was watching was CNN. So I have a lot of hatred for him, and one day I decided to say, you know what, I don't know much about him, so let's go and pray. And when I pray, God opened my heart, and that's how I become a really good fan of him. And here in this earth, every time somebody would be, you know, somebody would be trash or talk bad about, I will be here to defend him. So that was my first encounter with Trump. And I started doing some research, and I've been talking with my friends all day long, and now I have 47 people close to me who are going to be there and vote. I opened my computer, I did all the registration for them. They didn't even know anything about Trump. All they knew about, you know, he's a bad guy. And I tell them his policy and how good is with foreigner, even United States. And now we all, my family and all my friends, we are for Trump. So that's why I'm loving Trump. And this is my daughter. She was born on the same, so she had the same birthday as President Trump. Eddie, when are you born?
June 14.
June 14. So her name is Matthew. I send a lot of emails and letters to Trump, letting him know that my daughter and him, they have the same birthday. Bless you, President Trump. We love you. We love you. Yeah. Make America great again. 2020, yeah.
There's so much stuff I love about that clip. Obviously, the family. And you saw in that compilation that I showed earlier, about 12 minutes of video. And this is just, when a video comes across my Twitter, I download it. If I think it has any importance at all, if I think it's not important, but it may be important later, I just download it. And so I just download dozens of videos every single day, just as part of my job, as reference, because it's a compulsion. I don't know why, but I do. And you just notice, compiling all these together, if it's a liberal, a leftist event, no matter what it is, if it's a Biden event where they're supposed to be all happy, it's still Biden very angry and hateful and telling you to fear everything. If it's an actual demonstration where people are showing their anger, it's just cacophonous rage, just impotent fury being thrown at everyone and anyone, and really true hate. And then when it's Trump people, they're singing, they're clapping, they're having fun, they're laughing. I mean, you could not have a better example of just the dichotomy of Trump voters versus Biden voters than just looking at a video compilation like that and just taking in sort of the essence of each event that you see. Trump supporters, epic, having fun, dancing, singing, loving each other, loving everyone, shouting at Jim Acosta and laughing. I mean, that's like that in all of those clips. The only abuse that you'll see from Trump supporters is towards Jim Acosta, like upward, right? These are regular people who are mad at the liars and conniving scumbags that are up there in ivory towers in New York City telling them that they're all evil. It's not quite the same as, you know, for example, on the left, you have 2 Jewish guys going and trying to stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter and being cursed and assaulted and told to get out of here because we don't need solidarity. It's just hatefulness versus love. And it really is as simple as that. And I think that gentleman right there really expressed that. The other thing is that he went through a process that I went through of learning about Donald Trump, of ceasing to listen to mainstream media and doing your actual research and actually finding out what the guy's saying and what he's doing and what he's all about, and coming to the realization, hey, he's actually pretty great. And he said another thing. He said, so now all I'm doing is like defending Donald Trump, but it was sort of as if that was also part of his waking up. Because that was part of the waking up for me, where before I was a big fan of Donald Trump, I still didn't hate the guy, right? I'd stopped hating him. I'd gotten out of my indoctrination. I'd stopped hating him. But I still wasn't all for him. And then I would hear other people say stuff, and I'd be like, well, now I got to defend the guy because that's a lie. I know that's a lie. So let me tell you what the reality is. And it was like I was working around a bunch of leftists, and they were constantly just lying about Trump and saying BS about Trump. And so I was constantly defending him. And it was almost like, convincing myself as I'm telling them the truth about what's going on. I'm like, man, I actually really agree with this guy. So anyway, I thought that was a very interesting path that guy explained that he went through, and he's helping to wake up other people. It's a little white pill letting you know that what we're doing here at InfoWars is not totally hopeless. If people open their minds, if people are humble and really want to find the truth and really want to find out what reality is, the information is there, and not everybody is so consumed by the mainstream media mind control. So it's very good news. Let's go now to clip number 13. This is a young lady, 101 years young, and she's just more excited than anybody, perhaps, to get out and vote. So if a 101-year-old can get in the sidecar of a motorcycle to vote, you have no excuse. You should have already voted by now. This lady is a total inspiration, and again, you can just see the joy she expresses just as a Trump supporter. Yeah, you're just joyful. It's just one of the things that comes with the territory. So let's go now to a young woman named Mary Jane Jacoby.
Trump, I love you, and I think you're doing one heck of a job.
Who are you voting for next Tuesday?
Guess who?
I think I know who. How are you going to vote?
How am I going to vote? What do you mean, how?
Well, are you sending in a ballot?
Oh, no, I'm going to go in on a motorcycle, and I'm going to have a good time, and I'm going to go in and say, hi, girls, here I am. Get me in that vote, that booth, and I'm going to do my thing.
God bless you. You know what? You made America great.
Well,
you made America great.
She's all humble. She's like, I didn't make. No, you did. No, you really did. You can just tell it's the older generations that, frankly, they didn't know what they were up against. They made America great. America was great in their time. They made great lives for their children. They didn't understand that lurking in the shadows, lurking in the reeds around their civilization were these evil forces that were working in the shadows, working in clandestine groups to rob them of everything and destroy this beautiful country that they've built. So it's really tragic to me seeing these people who grew up in an America that was so different and in so many ways so much better than where we are now, and to have watched that be stolen away from you over the years is totally tragic. But you really can't blame them because until very recently, with the advent of the internet and people like Alex Jones exposing what was going on, nobody knew, nobody could know, nobody talked about it. The media wouldn't talk about it because they were all involved. So, these people are victims. They've had their country stolen from them. And I just, imagine watching that clip and not smiling, right? Imagine watching that clip with hate in your heart and just thinking this old Nazi woman, like, it's horrible, right? It's like, watch that clip. If you're a good person, you're going to smile at it. That should be like a litmus test. Like you're not allowed to vote unless you can watch this sweet woman talk about Donald Trump and smile with her. It's a litmus test of decency, I think. Let's go now to clip number 17. This one made the rounds. It's just absolutely fantastic. It was a clip in the compilation earlier, but the enthusiasm that this man has for Donald Trump is infectious. Try to watch this one without cracking a smile. This is clip 17, a very enthusiastic Trump supporter.
Barry, who you voting for?
Donald J. Don Trump, the Don.
Why?
Because he's the best president since sliced bread.
That is funny.
The man do what he say he's gonna do. I never seen it yet in my life. Everything the man say he's gonna do, he do it. Then his sister, his family trying to put him down. She don't even know what a great man this man she have in her own damn family. He's sick. This girl, she get paid to talk garbage. The man is a genius.
What about
the man could fix numbers and it's all the bottom line is accounts receivable and accounts payable. The books, man.
What about Biden?
Biden, that criminal, 47 years, he didn't do nothing for the black man. More than make a crime bill and he brag about it, and then he come and try not even apologizing. He's a crazy kid. He done done for America 47 years. Now we find out it all been still for China. 47 years in the place, and he want to do everything now that the man come and say he's going to do it. Plus, everything he says doing that what the president is doing. He's blaming the president for the virus. How can you blame the president? Nobody knew at the time. And the man moved so fast that he got up therapeutic and different jobs for treatment. Now, if you get tested in time, your life can be saved. Nobody knew. And they come, virus, corona, like the president brought it here. I can't believe these sick people. That's why they try to debate on. The communists never will work. Right. And I'm watching the American people because I could tell you one thing. I'm going to stand back and watch because they ain't going to take away the people's Second Amendment. I don't got any, so I'm not worried. But I know it's America. You can't touch that. And that's what all they want to do, take away the amendment.
So you're telling people to vote for Trump, right?
They have to. If they do not vote for Trump, it's finished, brother. God is in the midst. He's sealed and covered by the blood. They can't touch him. God sent him the right time. Believe me, I'm here 47 years, and this is the best. The best. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Sliced bread.
Love that, man. Barry, what a hero. And you can tell he's tuned in. I mean, he knows what he's talking about. He's talking about the Chinese corruption. He's talking about 47 years. He hasn't done anything. Talking about trying to take your Second Amendment. That's an informed man right there. And an enthusiastic man. And again, how can you watch these and not want to be amongst these people, not want to be one of them, not want to vote alongside Donald Trump with them? And finally, we'll go to a young mother. Again, this clip was in that previous compilation, but again, it's worth seeing the whole thing. And the energy of this clip is like overwhelming. There's, you know, with so much of the clips you see on the internet, there's like this kinetic, like electric energy where it's just like in your face all the time. Even that last clip, like his overwhelming energy is so apparent. In this clip 16, it's just like, this is like Midwest calm. It's just, there's no rush, there's no hurry, there's no hate, there's no fear, there's just goodness, a slow, wholesome goodness that comes through this clip in a way that Hollywood could never replicate. So here it is, it's young mother saying what she loves about Trump.
There's so much we love about him, right? He started with giving us back our Merry Christmas.
No, you're good. Go in.
He's passed amazing trade deals. He has kept the peace. I think that we have 4 more years of a fuller fruition of peace. He's pro-life. He's pro-Second Amendment. He is...
Hey guys, can we
He's pro-American. He's the all-American president, right? I mean, you have to have your head cemented in the sand not to vote for President Trump.
He's the all-American president. Isn't that the truth? Maybe that's why they hate him. I mean, they hate America. They hate the man that represents America and that stands for America. It makes sense, actually, in the end. And, you know, as much as the hateful people have been able to indoctrinate the young, have been able to spread their anti-Americanism through the media to, you know, people that are obsessed with that sort of stuff, decent people out there, just regular Americans, they still love America. They still like America. They haven't been swayed by these ideas that America was founded on racism and America's evil from the outset. They know it's untrue. They know it's untrue because they live here and they know that their fellow American people aren't the evil caricatures that they're portrayed as. And I think that's a message that resonates, and hopefully enough people out there understand that it is America that's at risk here. It's America itself that is under attack, and that will be essentially lost if we lose this election. And I know that can sound a little extreme, and maybe we'll still have some fight in us left, but you have to understand that the Democrats' espoused goal is the destruction of nation states. What they say they're going to do is destroy America. So it's not a lot of speculation on our part. I want to go to another clip now, another video. This one is from Ali Stuckey, I think her name is, and this is just fantastic. It's clip number 11. It's the only Democratic campaign ad you need to see this year. So if you're thinking about voting Democrat, if you're thinking about voting Republican, here's some reasons for you to vote Democrat. Maybe she can convince you, sort of in juxtaposition to those Republican pitches that we just saw. So here's Ali Stuckey with the only Democrat campaign ad you need to see this year.
Hi, I'm the spokesperson for the Democratic Party, and I'm back to tell you why you need to vote blue this November. You know us as the party of love, tolerance, and compassion, but we're much more than that. We're the party of science, and the science is clear. Men have periods, babies are clumps of cells until they're born, and maybe a few minutes after. Vaccines save lives unless they're developed while Trump is president, and voting for us will end hurricanes, wildfires, and tornadoes. As our nation reels from a pandemic with at least a 98% survival rate, we need a party that understands that riots, liquor stores, and abortion clinics are immune to the virus, while churches and schools are dangerous and must be shut down. It's for your safety. Democrats stand for justice. That means we'll ruin a man's life based on no evidence because we believe all women, unless your name is Tara Reid. As fighters for justice, we have a winning message from our activist base. Abolish the police and prison systems. At the same time, we'll push to take away your guns and eliminate single-family housing zones. It'll be fine. Our commitment to justice also means we'll stand by as the lives, businesses, and property of people who did nothing wrong are destroyed. That's because we believe Black Lives Matter. Trump is a racist. He just is. And even though he's explicitly condemned white supremacy multiple times, it's not enough and it never will be. Come to think of it, he hasn't been quite clear enough on his stances on cannibalism, pushing people in front of moving trains, or Ted Bundy either. It really makes you wonder. In Joe Biden, we have a champion for the BIPOC, primarily by authoring a bill that sent thousands of them to prison. And most recently, he compassionately pointed out that all black people think the same way, and that if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. He's right, of course. The only real black people are the ones who agree with us on everything. And those who don't, well, we have every right to belittle and demean them. That's what we call anti-racism. Democrats are the party of the poor, the marginalized, and people of color, as is reflected in our leadership and our party's biggest donors. Y hablamos español. One thing Democrats are best at is exciting our base. We do this by coming up with stories we know will make you angry and then dropping them entirely without corrections when they get old. Like accusing Kavanaugh of gang rape or Trump of stealing mailboxes. That was fun. Trump is a scary, evil dictator. So scary that absolutely no one is afraid to criticize him, lie about him, openly wish death upon him, or call him a clown in a live debate. That's why we believe he won't concede in November. Sure, it's been 4 years and we still haven't accepted the results of the last election, but that's because reasons. The GOP will do anything to stay in power. Democrats are just trying to preserve our democracy by packing the courts, abolishing the Electoral College, and reconfiguring the Senate. We go back and forth between believing Trump is a conniving genius or a bumbling buffoon, but one thing is clear. He is not mentally fit to be president. Our candidate is sharp, and not at all in cognitive decline. I mean, who really knows what the Declaration of Independence says anyway? And who are you to say Corn Pop isn't real? The choice is clear. And once again, we're confident that through censorship, manipulation, bullying, and maybe a little ballot harvesting, we'll get our way. Why? Because we care about you. So much so that we're willing to wear you down until you fear getting silenced, doxxed, fired, or ruined if you don't agree with our agenda. That's love. I'm the spokesperson for the Democratic Party. Vote for us in November.
It's so good. That was excellent. That was very, very good. That was from The Blaze, Ali Stuckey. She is funny, man. And it's like, it's so true. And it's that smiley kind of like, we're helping you, and if you don't let us, we'll kill you kind of spirit that they have. It's totally sick. But I love what she said at the end there, where she said, you know, we'll get our way through lying and censorship and manipulation. And it's so true. You know, the truth doesn't need censorship. It doesn't fear censorship. It doesn't fear what other people have to say. The truth, the reality of the situation can be found if you just open your mind and look at the information that you have and understand where that information is coming from and why they're telling you that information. But once you have that sort of grounding, we don't need to censor anybody else because we're right and we'll just give you the information and you can decide. We don't need to manipulate anybody or lie about anything or confuse any issues because we want to obscure the reality of the fact. And when we get back from this break, I'll break down some of exactly what I'm talking about in the newest way that the mainstream media is attempting, quite pathetically, to discredit the Hunter Biden email leaks. It's really a stretch, and it's amazing who's falling for it. So we'll get to that. I'll also be joined by Damani Felder. He was in Houston this afternoon for an anti-Biden rally, a Dan Crenshaw rally that sort of morphed, I guess, into a anti-Biden rally. So we'll talk to him about what that was like and the spirit there when we get back on the other side. Remember, everything that we do here, all that you're seeing and all that you're not seeing that's being done behind the scenes that you know keeps this place up and running is sponsored by you, the Info Warriors, the American people, by going to InfoWarsStore.com. It is the Black Friday in October sale event. It's 60% off plus free triple Patriot points and free shipping. And Bod Ease is 50% off. It's back in stock, and you get the free shipping. So please support us here in this final stretch towards the election. I'll be right back with the 2020 election countdown. Taking America back, one day closer to victory. My name's Harrison Smith. You're watching the 2020 election countdown here on Infowars.com and Band.video. Please do share these links, share the videos, get the word out, because we are 4 days away from this all-important election. Not too much time left. I will very shortly be joined by my guest, Damani Felder, to talk about what it was like being at the anti-Biden event there in Houston. Of course, a lot of events still ongoing, a lot of news still happening, a lot of videos of just these unbelievably massive Trump crowds in places like Minnesota. Also in Minnesota, you have Joe Biden getting a massive Trump crowd and the Joe Biden crowd being drowned out by Minnesota Trump supporters. You also have lockdown protests in Europe and places like Spain absolutely exploding. And we'll talk a little bit more about Europe later in this program. I do quickly want to tell you what the schedule looks like for Donald J. Trump here in the last 4 days. From our friend American Nationalist at Nationalist TV on Twitter, Trump's final rallies today in Waterford, Green Bay, Rochester. Saturday, he'll be in Reading, Butler, and Montoursville, all in Pennsylvania. On Sunday, he'll be in Washington, Minneapolis. Dubuque, I should know how to pronounce this. Iowa, Hickory, North Carolina, Rome, Georgia, Miami, Florida, and then on Monday, he'll be in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Scranton, Pennsylvania, Traverse City, Missouri, Kenosha, Wisconsin, and Grand Rapids, Missouri. So something like 14 events in 4 days. The man's got energy. Let's just say that. All right, now my guest I'd like to welcome is Damani Felder, and I believe he was just in Houston at what became, I guess, was an anti-Biden event. Thanks for coming on, Damani.
Thanks for having me, Harrison. It's good to be here.
So what was this event in Houston that you were just attending earlier today?
Yes, it was couched as a chance for us to actually engage in a counter rally with Dan Crenshaw and Wesley Hunt to show support. So it actually was like a mini Trump rally, if you will. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of great enthusiasm out there at the event. And really just a great chance for us all to get together and remember what it is that makes America great and be with other people who are like-minded. Obviously, we know Kamala has been traversing throughout the state, and she has been summarily run out of town almost on a rail because the Trump supporters here in Texas, we don't take too kindly to socialism or communism or whatever the left is peddling here. So it's actually been a great fun to see how many people are willing to come out, take time out of their day to actually show support for what really matters.
That's great. So what was the crowd like? Do you have any way of estimating? I'm terrible at guessing number sizes, so no pressure. But what was the crowd size like?
Yeah, I would say there are probably about 200 to 300 people who were there at this event. And remember, this is nothing to do. This had no Trump people there.
Right,
there
no
were
official appearances or anything.
Yeah, it was no Donald Trump Jr., there was no Lara Trump, no Eric Trump, but there were still hundreds of people out there who were willing to show their support for not even just President Trump, but really what true Americana should be. We're at a time right now where there are a lot of individuals who are doing everything they can to destroy all that have made us great and all that can make us great into the future. So to see people who are willing to actually show up and show their support for everything that is good and right in America, it was very heartening to see.
Isn't that fun, man? I tell people as much as I can, I've never actually been inside of a Trump rally. I've only ever been on the outside of Trump rallies, but there's nothing like it. I mean, the spirit of goodness, of love, of camaraderie. I mean, it's all smiles. It's all just this uplifting energy that really you can't experience anywhere else. And just the love that exudes from Trump supporters is really something else, especially if you go to a leftist protest and then compare the two. I mean, it's night and day. Do you go to a lot of these events, and how much of this do you think is a part of why people go to this? Because obviously this is one of the things they want to shut us down from. They don't want us communicating. They don't want us sharing that, okay, we're all in this together. We all agree on the same thing. They want us separated and to not even know that there's other people out there like us. And so it's so much fun to me to go and be in these crowds and be like, oh yes, we're all here. There are tons of us. It's so uplifting. What's your experience?
Yeah, I've actually been to, I think it's 4 or 5 Trump rallies at this point. But I'm really just trying to even get more engaged at the local level, because a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of decisions that are made that affect everyday Americans that happen down ballot. So one of the things that I think Republicans are getting better at is mobilizing and continuing to drive engagement for even those races that are down ballot. What I like to tell people is there's people who will always say that Trump events are the most racist events, they're full of white supremacists. Let me tell you, there is not a more loving, wholesome event you can go to than a Trump rally. And like I said before, I've been to several. And what I challenge people to do is, if there are people who really do think that we are full of hateful, divisive people, I'd encourage them to at least go to one, because a lot of the people who think that way are saying just what they have been told to believe, and they haven't seen it with their own eyes. There are so many people of all walks of life, even at this event out here in Houston, Texas, on very short notice. It was called less than 24 hours ago that it was announced. And there were people who were African-American. There were people who were Hispanic there, quite a few Hispanics, actually. There were Asian Americans there. I met a guy who was an Islander. He was of Islander heritage. So our events are both diverse and they're accepting. And that's one thing that I think the left really does not fully understand, because their only sense of unity and union for their events are their collective shared hate for America and those who love it. And on the other side of the aisle, with any Trump-related event or any even pro-America event, there is so much enthusiasm. I really think this is really interesting to note. When you think about in the past, when there were races that were in the past, you didn't see the kinds of people showing up at these events in the numbers you're seeing them show up in right now today. What I'm seeing right now on the ground is an overwhelming groundswell of support. The people make fun of the silent majority moniker sometimes, but it is unbelievably true. There are people all over this country who do love America and who do believe in America. And whenever I even drive around here in Houston, Texas now, for every house where I do not see, anything but an American flag, I'm willing to bet that's a Trump supporter. And it's so funny how the left, they've been shipping out these Biden-Harris signs and making you feel like you're all alone in the world. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people either maybe don't feel like putting their political hearts on their sleeves, if you will, and putting out a Trump sign. But anyone who really at this day and age loves America is going to be on the Trump side of the aisle. And that just goes without saying at this point.
Yeah, it's all about fear, isn't it? They have Trump supporters fearing to express who they are, and they're also leveling fear on their own supporters, saying, don't go to the Trump supporters, don't go to the Trump rallies, you'll be hated, you'll be attacked. It's utterly untrue, and I say the same thing as you do. If you've heard this stuff and you think it's true, come test it. Come hang out with Trump supporters, come to a Trump rally, and wear a Biden shirt, wear a Democrat, shirt. See what reaction you'll get. You'll get a couple laughs, maybe a couple like, oh, it's not hateful whatsoever. And it's astonishing the way that people are convinced that it is. You said so many good things just there. Of course, I hadn't really considered the fact that it is projection. It's a lot of projection on them because of the way that they organize themselves and how they see their own identity that's very racial and that's very segmented, and that they project that onto the Trump supporters. I hadn't really, considered that in terms of the Trump rally and getting people to stay away from that. And I think that is a really good point. The other thing, you're from Houston. I'm from Houston. I love Houston. Houston's like my favorite city in the world. And to me, there's a very uniqueness. There's a uniqueness about Houston in terms of racial homogeny and racial, friendliness. I don't know how to put it, but it's weird because you think Texas, you think the South, you think everybody's going to be. But growing up in Houston, I had a view of race that was totally different than the spirit I get when I go up to a place like the Northeast or anywhere else. And I always wonder what it is about Houston that it seems like it's incredibly diverse, the most diverse city in America by some counts, and yet there's not a lot of racial strife, at least there wasn't when I lived there. What do you think it is about Houston, and how do we export that spirit to the rest of America?
Well, first and foremost, I do have to correct the record. I'm actually from San Antonio. I just moved to Houston.
That's all right. That's close enough. It's Texas. It's close enough. You're in Houston now, though, right?
Right, I am now.
Okay.
I just moved here 2 months ago.
That's good.
But yeah, Houston really is a microcosm of America. It's a melting pot. There are people of all different walks of life, all different nationalities, all different races, who have all come together, and for better or for worse, over the last several years, as far as I can tell, even at the very least, they've just learned how to get along with each other. It's a lesson that a lot of people actually need to learn and really learn from, because in different parts of the world, it's become almost so polarized and so divided that there is no room left anymore for any sort of intellectual discourse. And that's antithetical to the American way of life. So I think what we need to do, if there's a way that we could export that to the rest of the world, it would be to continue taking it upon yourself. Any individual out there who does feel similarly or who is proud of America, don't be afraid to show it. What I say all the time is, when the left has made you begin to second guess whether or not you have the right or whether or not you should feel comfortable to show your support for the duly elected president of the United States, they've already won. We can't cede that battle. So we need more and more patriots to take up, their own individual crosses and actually, be that change they want to see in the world. It's a line that people use a lot, but it's a line that needs to be lived out.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And what do you think? How do you think it works that the Democrats can, on one hand, clearly they hate America? I mean, that's pretty undeniable at this point with the way that they express themselves, especially their willingness to embrace the far leftists who just are openly like Maoist and just literally hate America, while at the same time saying we're defending America against, the fascists on the right. Just what do you think? How do you think they do that? What makes them able to both hate America and be claiming to want to save America at the same time? It's a tough question. I don't know if I have an answer either, but it's something that you made me think of.
Well, what the left, they typically engage in is speaking in a manner that actually sounds good to the hearer, but then the words don't back it up. And what they're counting on is that the average person will not actually question or challenge them on the policies that they claim or purport to support. So, I really, that's a tough question. I don't know if I quite have an answer for it right now.
I think you did answer. I think the answer is because they're liars. I think that's a pretty simple answer.
That, in as many words, yes. And the thing is, they have a death grip on the majority of Americans, unfortunately, because of their allegiance and alliance with the mainstream media. And the mainstream media is very good at either lulling you to sleep so you don't know what's going on, or at repeating the lies that you come to accept over time. So we have to continue to challenge them every step of the way. And it's difficult because I know y'all there at InfoWars, y'all have to put up with countless numbers of attacks. I get attacked every day now myself, so I understand to a small degree what you go through. But the left, they'll lie to get what they want. They'll lie to rise to power, and then they will renege on any promises that they've made. It's the same tired song and dance we've been seeing from them for so long now. Obama ran on hope and change, and you got neither, essentially. And now, essentially, Joe Biden is running on a different version where he wants to build back better. It's just all these little sound bites. The left is very good at talking in sound bites that are very easy to understand because, unfortunately, the majority of the time, they're appealing to the lowest common denominator of their voting base, and which is, unfortunately, abject stupidity at this point.
Yeah, they really prey on stupidity. Now I know Houston. Well, I'm going to go with the Houston question again, but Houston was targeted, as you pointed out, by a lot of down ballot reconfiguring in the midterms, where they really pushed out the vote for the Democrats. They really wanted Beto to get into the Senate, so they really pushed in Houston and elected a lot of people that had never been in office before and really weren't qualified for it. But because their names had the D next to it, we saw this massive changeover of officials and administrators there in Houston. And I think you identified that as something that Republicans really need to pay attention to, this sort of death by 1,000 cuts that the Democrats are engaged in, where instead of going for just the big offices, they have just thousands of small races that they're pouring money into to try to change the landscape. What have you noticed on that front, and how do you think we combat that?
Yeah, the left is relentless. They will stop at nothing, and they're very sneaky. They're very conniving in the way in which they carry out their grand battle plan, if you will. I think the best way to counteract that as conservatives and as patriots is to invest yourself in every election you can in your local area as if it was the presidency. Because to the left, they treat it like it is the presidency. To them, they know that if they can get a certain judge elected here or a certain congressperson elected there, that they can, in effect, still carry out what their plan is or stonewall the duly elected president if he is of the conservative variety. So for everyone out there who thinks this comes and goes and happens only every 4 years, I want to challenge you to say, the time for talk is past. It is time for us to actually take action. Whether that means running for an office yourself, if you don't think you know how, talk to some other people. I guarantee you there's someone who can help you figure it out. But there's some races even that I saw when I was voting a couple of days ago here in Houston where there was no Republican challenger, and it was just a Democrat as a selection. Obviously, I did not select them, but we have to at least be willing to take the fight to them at every single level. If we don't do that, we are ceding defeat to them, and they will slowly encroach upon that which makes America great, and they will turn America into the countries that we've seen, like Venezuela and other countries that have tried to adopt these policies that are completely at odds with what America should be.
Yeah, and they say that can't happen. It's like, no, it can. It'll just be a slow degradation for so long. And it's the same thing here in Austin. When I went to vote, there were a couple of races where it was just the Democrat. And of course, you just leave it blank. But, here in Austin, we see it completely. And I've referenced it before, but especially things like defund the police has less than probably 15% support from the wider Austin public. But the city council's going through with it, because they want to, they're going to do it, and they have all the money behind them, and they get elected somehow. And so even though they're totally, what they're for is against what 85% of Austinites are for, it doesn't matter because they're the ones in charge, and you can't really overestimate what the effect of that is when you multiply it by 10,000, by all of these different cities this occurring in. What's your prediction? And obviously, I have no idea. I think Trump is going to win. I think it looks good, but who knows? What's your prediction for the election this Tuesday?
I still have hope that Trump will pull out the victory. I actually think that the support that people claim Joe Biden has is vastly overstated. There was actually a great tweet that I forget who actually put it out, but she was showing how the Real Clear Politics average showed Hillary Clinton up by a certain number of percentage points in certain swing states. And then it actually showed what the final result was when the votes were counted. We know that the left has been utilizing COVID-19 as their Trojan horse to usher in mail-in voting, which we know is plagued with wrongdoing and with foul play. So I think what it's most incumbent upon us to do is keep our eyes open in the days, especially after the election. We see what they do in Broward County every 2 years, and now they're trying to pull a Broward County on the entire country. Whether that means volunteering as a poll watcher, we need our own people out there. Essentially, we are, as y'all always say, we are the resistance, and we need to be in a position strategically to where we can effectively combat this blatant steal that they're trying to carry out right now. The only reason that they are still insisting that everyone wear masks or stand 6 feet apart or put on a little, almost like a finger condom, if you will, to go vote so you don't contract this virus that has a 99% survival rate, is because they want to keep you in fear and because they want to, in effect, perpetuate the lie that you need some arbitrary entity that is government to take care of you. Here in America, one of the things that I love about the country is that we all should have our own ownership over what we become. And when we effectively let this elite, if you will, the elites and their elitist mentality control every facet of our lives, then we let them win. So we need to have people who are willing to stand in the gap and fight what's really important, because if we let them steal this election, there's no telling what they will do. They've already talked about how they plan to carry out retribution against Trump supporters. And that doesn't sound like the country that I want to be in. And I'm not hoping for violence, but if violence does come, I believe that we will reign supreme and we will win the day, but it's not going to be pretty, because they've actually shown what their true battle plan is over these last few years. Rioting in the streets, looting, burning, policemen standing down or being ordered to stand down. And if the police aren't going to be there to protect the people, we the people, we got to be able to protect ourselves. And that's one of the things I'm ready to do. And I know everybody else out there is as well.
Yeah, what springs to mind is a refrain that I know Ron Paul uses a lot, which is something along the lines of liberty is a responsibility. It's not license to do whatever you want. It's a personal responsibility to live in a way that's beneficial for everybody. And they don't understand that. They think they should be able to do whatever they want and suffer no consequences. They think they should be able to do nothing and be paid for it. I mean, it's a complete lack of personal responsibility. And maybe that's what we need to sort of inculcate into our children, into the youth, that no, you can't just rely on some other people to take care of you all the time. You have to take care of yourself. And that also means you have to suffer consequences when you fail to live up to whatever these standards that we've set are. I like how you have on your Twitter, which I suggest everybody follow, at the Damani Felder, you have identity politics is dead. I wish that were the case, but it seems like it is still struggling to maintain life. It's still, perhaps in some ways getting even stronger. Maybe it's some sort of zombie strength that it's gaining. But how do you think we fight against identity politics when literally everything has become identity politics? I mean, it is the all-encompassing go-to for absolutely anything now. And so it's like, we can't just ignore it. We can't just say, it doesn't matter. Everything is framed this way. So how do we get away from that? Or how do we deal with this new paradigm of identity politics being the only thing that you consider about any topic?
Yeah, so identity politics is dead is actually the tagline for the YouTube channel my brother and I started. And while I do admit that it is unfortunately thriving in the present day, the reason we chose that as our motto or tagline is because that's an aspirational statement. What we envision and what we long for is a world where identity politics is truly dead, where your immutable characteristics do not dictate the way you process and think about the world around you. Identity politics is probably one of the greatest lies that's ever been sold to the American people, because it forces you to segregate, essentially. We've seen how the left has been pushing to segregate other establishments, whether that be colleges having different graduation ceremonies for people of color or what have you. The list goes on and on. But when you segregate yourself, especially in 2020, that goes at cross purposes with everything that people who came before us fought to eradicate. We had people even in the 60s and 70s who were fighting tirelessly to secure the right for people to vote, not people to live in a country that is going to treat them with respect. And the greatest disrespect that any person can have for another is to think that by virtue of those immutable characteristics, that they know how this person thinks, they know how this person votes, they know what this person likes. It is the ultimate form of condescension to think that you know everything about someone else just because of the way they look. So hopefully in the days, weeks, months, and years that follow, we see more and more people rise up and refuse to conform to the label. There was a Hispanic woman I talked to earlier today at the Crenshaw Hunt event, and she was just telling me how she had 7 children. She taught them all how to work hard. She's out there supporting Trump, supporting Dan Crenshaw. And that is the beauty of America. Here in America, you can be whoever you want to be and do whatever you want to do, provided that you have the appropriate work ethic. But work ethic is a concept that the left frequently shies away from, because work ethic does require you to have a certain modicum of personal responsibility. The reason we have so many young people now who insist on getting everything for free or insist on everyone being treated with equality, as they say, is because they don't want to have to put in the work themselves. And that's a very dangerous precedent that you set when you have a group of people who are so disincentivized and so disillusioned that they think that someone else owes them something. No one owes anyone anything. America is the land of opportunity, but it is up to you to seize that opportunity and actually do something with it. And if you don't, that's on you.
Yeah, it's like they're always talking about the American dream is dead. Well, the American dream wasn't to be handed anything. The American dream was going out in the world and making it for yourself. And yeah, when you take that away, I guess the dream is dead. When you make it impossible for people to get ahead, or when you want everybody just dependent on a handout, yeah, the American dream is dead. But for now, it's hanging on because there are still people like you out there that actually believe in that. And to me, the most sort of important thing is to understand that like nationalism, which is framed as this like very racist thing, to me is like that's the answer to identity politics, because that's my identity, is I'm American. And when I go to another country, I am way less like those people, even if they look like me, even if they're of the same blood of me, however many generations back. I probably have more in common with you because we both grew up in Texas, because we both probably listen to the same music, we both watch the same sports team. Like if you and I met in Europe, it'd be like, oh, thank God, a fellow American. I'm sick of all these Europeans around here. So what do you think about that? Just the idea that nationalism supersedes identity politics, and we can all say that we're American and come together under that banner, and then you can be different. You should be different. Diversity is not our strength, but harmony is, right? Different. You can't have a symphony of everybody playing their own song. Everybody's got to be on the same beat and in the same tune, but we want a bunch of different noises, different sounds. Then it creates harmony, not a cacophony, not diversity, but above it all, nationalism. We're all American at the end. What do you think about that?
That is a fantastic point. There's so much that can be gained when you are all on the same team. You should want that team to win. It's the same foolish concept. Like imagine if you're watching a sports team. I, for one, do not watch the NFL anymore. But back in the day when I did, I remembered that, every person on that team has to be bought in order for that team to be successful. And now we effectively have players on our very same team, the American team, that will either lay down on the field or stay on the bench or stay in the locker room and not even come out to help the team actually win. That's where we're at right now. So when we have people who are all dialed together, all working towards a common goal, let me tell you, I don't even think that we've scratched the surface of how incredible America could be if we actually all were on the same team. But the reason we have so many issues right now is because there are individuals out there who want nothing to do with the team, who refuse to actually leave and transfer to a different team, but they will stay here and drag the team down. And they will not rest until the team is destroyed, because to them, it becomes something personal. This is bigger than any one person. This is about the United States of America. This is bigger than Donald Trump even. This is about whether or not our country will be allowed to prosper in the future. And if we have people on our team, players on our team, who are not going to show up, they have to be cut one way or another. That's just simply how it has to be.
Yep, can't be a country of bench warmers and expect to win the game. God, such a good point. So obviously people can follow you on Twitter at the Damani Felder, and that's DAMANIFELDER, Damani Felder. They can also follow your YouTube channel that you do with your brother at the Wright Brothers. Is that correct? With the RIGHT, not the airplane guys. How else can people follow and support your work?
Well, I'm currently under a massive shadow ban on Instagram right now, where my engagement's been cut by like 90%. So if they want to follow me there, support me there, it's at the Damani Felder, THEDAMANI Felder. I'm also on Facebook, Damani Bryant Felder. I'm on Parler at the Damani Felder. But the last point I want to make before we go ahead and wrap up is just that for every patriot that the big tech tries to cut down, there needs to be 5 or 10 other patriots who will stand up and take their place. You need to grow like weeds, essentially. And I'm already seeing that happen. So the most important thing people can do is not just follow me, but start speaking out yourself, because they cannot silence all of us. If we all rise up with one voice and we all proclaim that we love this country and that we believe in this country, they cannot stop all of us. And I encourage anyone out there who is on the fence about it, the time for talk is done. It's time for action, time to rise up, make your voice heard, be a part of the resistance, and help us reclaim America and make it great again.
Beautiful stuff from Damani Felder and the Wright brothers on YouTube at the Damani Felder on Twitter. Thank you so much for coming on. This was absolutely great.
Thanks for having me, Harrison. I appreciate it.
Beautiful stuff, folks. It's about coming together and winning for America. And with soldiers like that on our side, how can we lose? We'll be right back with the final segment on the other side. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the 2020 election countdown. It's Friday. It's the 30th of October, and we are 4 days away from victory, or perhaps collapse, depending on whether the Democrats get away with it. Let's be honest, if it was an accurate vote, if it was an honest vote, if they were all counted and duly compiled, I don't think there would be much of a chance for the Democrats. But my God, the amount of fraud we've already seen this election is truly, truly astounding, with more and more coming out every single day. It really is shocking. A couple updates on some news as of this afternoon. Kyle Rittenhouse, of course, of Kenosha fame, lost his habeas corpus motion. His criminal lawyers felt strongly the decision was erroneous. Kyle had absolute right of appeal to file on Monday. Unbeknownst to lawyers, Kyle was taken to Wisconsin, which effectively mooted his appeal. Something is not right with these events. That's what Lynn Wood, his attorney, has said. So apparently they will be moving forward with the murder charges against Kyle Rittenhouse, and we'll be watching that. There's also a new development with censorship that seems to have come out of YouTube, where YouTube will now give you a community strike for your Watch Later playlist. So if you put a video on your Watch Later playlist, which is just a private library of videos that you haven't watched yet, they'll give you a strike for that, or a warning at least. This user on Twitter reached out to Team YouTube to say, what the heck? This isn't even my video. It's one I put on a playlist, a private playlist, and you gave me a strike. And they say, yeah, well, all content on the platform are constantly scanned to make sure that you follow our policies. You can learn more about our community guidelines here. Hope this helps. So there you go. This is where we're getting. And of course, MailChimp has also said that it will censor you. It will not allow people to say false, bad information. That's an email service, right? So I hope you're ready for the globalist world. I hope you're ready for the new world order, where your personal interaction, your personal conversations, anywhere from email to Twitter DMs to Facebook messages, maybe even phone calls, maybe text messages. That's probably coming down the line, but we'll all be constantly watched. It will all be monitored, and you must conform to the will of those in charge. And if you disagree with them, even if you have proof, even if you are the one who has experienced the thing that happened, it doesn't matter. You have to conform to the narrative, conform to what they want you to say, or you will be punished and removed. That's just how it's happening. And we'll talk a little bit more about how big tech works in just a moment. But first, this map just came into me. The crew just delivered this to me. I guess this is from everykidvotes.org, and it's a map of the results of the 2020 election if it were to be voted on by school children, by kids, I guess, in high school and middle school. Were asked to cast a vote, and it's looking good for Trump. That one's different, though. That one's a different map than the one that I brought in, because that one, Texas is red, which is troubling. I mean, Texas is blue. It should be red, it seems. These are live results, so maybe it's changing as we talk. But the previous one had better results for Trump, at least. But I guess that's not too confusing when you look at the makeup of the demographics of people in Texas and the huge amount of Hispanic young people. The youth heavily swayed towards the Hispanic population in Texas. Maybe that has to do with why it went blue in that map, but interesting results. And as far as this map goes, it's looking good for Trump, looking good for old Trumpy boy and the youth, which is exciting to see, because we hear so many horror stories about the state of the youth and how many of them support socialism and other such nonsense. Got some more videos I want to play for you, and I definitely want to talk about what's going on in France, but we'll save that for a little bit, because this is the election countdown after all, and even though what's happening in France may be a sign of the times and a sign of what is to come and a warning for us here in America, it doesn't directly affect us, so we'll move to something that does. This is very interesting, and I like how Logan Clark Hall framed this. He says, on Twitter. This is how big tech and media work in tandem. NBC digs up some random Hunter Biden conspiracy no one's ever heard of. They discredit that theory, and then Twitter trends it to gloss over actual reports because they know a lot of people can't differentiate. So here's what he's talking about. It's this NBC News article. Here's the tweet they put out. They say, this 60-page document asserting an elaborate conspiracy theory involving Joe Biden's son and businesses in China that was later disseminated by close associates of President Trump appears to be the work of a fake intelligence firm. Now, this was by a guy, I guess, named Martin Aspen, who, frankly, I've never heard of. And I don't think many people have ever heard of this guy. And he definitely wasn't behind the exposure of Hunter Biden, no pun intended, and the corruption in which he was involved. His laptop had nothing to do with Martin Aspen. His recordings of his voice talking about working for Communist China and the effing spy chief of Communist China, that wasn't a hoax by Martin Aspen. So what are they talking about? Well, they found some guy who apparently made something up and are now framing it as if this is where it all came from. And so now it's discredited. And of course, we've seen that the Hunter Biden story was not only removed from Twitter completely for at least a little while, but certainly never was allowed to trend, was never allowed to gain any publicity through the actual operation of Twitter. And yet, strangely enough, curiously enough, maybe coincidentally enough, this NBC News article immediately trends, and there it was pinned to the top of the trending tab for quite a while under the headline, Martin Aspen, a viral document detailing a conspiracy theory involving Hunter Biden and business in China appears to have been created by a fake intelligence firm, NBC News reports. Martin Aspen, said to be the document's author, is a fabricated identity, according to disinformation researchers. So this is the type of thing, and I've talked about it before, the signal that goes out beep, beep, to all the Democrats, where they all just latch onto something and then repeat that ad nauseum. That's what this is, right? You have just overwhelming evidence of the corruption of the Biden family, especially when it has to do with China and Ukraine and Russia as well. Overwhelming, physical, indisputable evidence. That doesn't matter. Now they have this. Now they'll point to this. Now, whenever you talk about the business that Joe Biden engaged in China with his son Hunter, they'll say that was fake, that was discredited, that was debunked. It wasn't. They haven't looked at or tried to debunk whatsoever the actual evidence that we have, the actual source of this information. They've completely ignored it. They've said it's debunked without any sort of anything to back it up. But now they have a little tiny thing to back it up. A little signal has gone out to the liars and the fools, and they will repeat this ad nauseum. And now whatever new information comes up, they'll brush off, they'll brush it aside and say that's all disinformation because Twitter told me. And you think I'm exaggerating? Well, here is a woman named Miss Krasenstein on Twitter, H. Krasenstein. She says, this is a person with 150,000 followers, okay? Huge account, massive account, honestly. That's a lot of followers on Twitter, 150,000. She's wearing a Biden mask in her profile picture. And she says, now that NBC has exposed the bogus Hunter Biden smears and discovered that a fake man named Martin Aspen was behind it all, I'm calling on Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk, Rudy Giuliani, Fox News, and Donald Trump to apologize to Joe and Hunter Biden, who's with me, and that has 20,000 likes. So this is how easy it is to trick idiots or to bring liars into your narrative. I don't know if she's just dumb or a liar, but she's one of those, okay? And they're equally bad. This is somebody with, again, 150,000 followers, 20,000 likes on this tweet that is swallowing hook, line, and sinker the utterly absurd notion that all of the evidence that we have, the videos, the photos, the conversations, Hunter Biden's business partner himself giving an elaborate and extensive interview and documents of all of that doesn't matter because NBC has identified some fake guy that apparently wrote some conspiracy theory, and now it's all over. Now it'll never be brought up again. You'll be hearing, I mean, they still say Russia collusion. So, I mean, these people are lost causes in most cases. They're just, they're either dumb as a brick or just actively evil liars. And it's one of those. That's the only two options. Let's go to a video, shall we? which one should I go to first is the question. Do I want to talk about Europe? Let's talk about Europe, okay? As you may know, the French people are being actively usurped and replaced by foreigners. And all over Europe, this is taking place. We've seen it over and over again. One of the events that happened this week, or one of the stories that broke this week, was the fact that a security guard at the Manchester Arena actually saw the Manchester bomber who would kill many people with a bomb during a concert for children, saw this guy, thought he was suspicious, thought I should go investigate what this guy's doing, and said, no, I'm not going to do that because I might seem racist. So a clear example of racism, the idea of racism, the imposition of this filter on the mind of the English people is actually responsible for the death of all of these young boys and girls in the Manchester Arena that were blown to smithereens by this bomber that was, again, identified, seen as suspicious, but then let go because the security guard didn't want to be smeared. He didn't want to be considered racist. And what that means is he's probably had experience with this, and he's probably before maybe gone to a superior and said, hey, it looks like this guy's doing something suspicious. And they go, oh, no, see, he's brown, so you can't investigate him or it's racist. And we also know from inquiries, from investigations into the just astronomical, I mean, to the tunes of hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of young British girls systematically taken advantage of by the people there, by the Muslims there in that country. They were allowed to operate rings of this. They were allowed to operate clubs where they took advantage of girls who were underage because, and the sole reason is, they were not investigated because it would have seemed racist. It was shut down, and they allowed tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps over 1 million girls be taken advantage of and have their lives altered forever, perhaps ruined forever, because they didn't want to seem racist once again. So all of this is kind of the background to, again, what happened earlier this week when there was a beheading in the city of Nice, in particular in a cathedral in the city of Nice. This is a symbolic act. This was not a random act. This was clearly terrorism. It is just utterly obvious. And of course, it may have been because of the response that France had to the attacking and beheading of the teacher that showed the Muhammad cartoons. Now, France very admirably didn't hide, didn't start banning these cartoons. In fact, in some places in France, they've then projected these cartoons onto public buildings, saying we will not be intimidated. That's the correct way to respond. It's the only way to respond, right? It's a bully telling you, if you do this, I'm going to beat you up. Okay, well, if you listen to him and you don't do that thing, he's won, right? It's outrageous. You can't let the threat of violence convince you to give up your rights that are, I mean, France, right? If there's one thing France is associated with, it's human rights, the rights of man. I mean, they took our revolution and went all in with it. And that's what is being threatened right now in France. So you have the French people actually standing up against the terrorism, which for me, maybe one of the first times I've actually seen this. I mean, we'll see demonstrations and that sort of thing, but this seems like a level more. This seems like the French people are finally sick of this. They're sick of an elementary school teacher being beheaded. That's unacceptable. Somebody beheaded inside a cathedral. That's absolutely unacceptable. And the French people are standing up against it, and that's causing more enragement by the Muslims there in France. But there's a couple videos that illustrate this quite clearly and show you that it's not just in France, and that, as we have predicted here at InfoWars for quite a long time, what's coming down the pipe is what I would phrase an international civil war, a global civil war, where it's going to be factions, French factions against French factions, German factions against German factions, but all those factions will sort of coalesce into two major factions that are doing war in all these different countries. We see it obviously here in America, and as I show you these videos, we'll see how it's progressing in Europe. But first, I want to go to clip number 6, and this is actually, so it was the Notre Dame Cathedral. It was the one in Nice, not the one in Paris, but it's still called the Notre Dame Cathedral, where this woman was beheaded by a Muslim terrorist who was a asylum seeker and had been welcomed into France with open arms because they're loving, caring people. And then he beheaded a mother and attacked a few more people inside that church. Well, here is the French people gathering at that place of a massacre, that place of a murder, place of a terrorist attack, gathering there and not being silenced, not being shut down, but instead singing their national anthem. So here are the French people gathering outside of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Nice and singing the French national anthem. So that's the French people telling the people in their country that want to destroy their rights, destroy their heritage, destroy their country itself and their people, telling them it's not going to be as easy as that. But, you know, they're already invaded, so they've basically already lost. But it's nice to see them sing their national anthem and try to assert themselves once again. Here's a even better example of this. It's clip number 5, because here what you'll see in this video, and the audio is not great, but what you'll see are Muslims praying in the streets of Paris, in the streets of France, and they are actually drowned out by French citizens who are singing the French national anthem. So if you ever wanted a symbolic representation of what's going on in Europe right now, here it is. So that's sort of symbolic of what's going on in Europe right now, the conflict between the native Europeans and the Muslim interlopers. And it seems like, you know, perhaps too late, but finally the European people are starting to assert their sovereignty, assert their right to their own nation and their own heritage and their own rights that have been fought and died for by their forefathers. Let's quickly go to this clip because this illustrates that it's an international issue that's happening right now. It's not just France this is taking place in. Here is a group of Muslims in Germany's capital of Berlin screaming Allah Akbar in support of the Muslims in France. We'll give this a little bit more context in just a second. Clip number 1, let's roll it. So you go, you get an idea. We don't have to hear him yelling Allah Akbar more, but just get an idea of what is going on here. You have a French school teacher who shows a comic of Muhammad, and before he does, the day before, he warned his Muslim students. He said, we're going to do a lesson about free speech, about the rights of the press, about what it means to be French, right? Because all these people, they're just desperate to become French, right? That's why they let them into France, because they love France so much and they just can't wait to be French. So he's giving a lesson about this, and he tells the Muslim students, hey, this might be offensive to you. You might not like this, and you can actually stay home. You don't have to come to this lesson. he made the preparation. He's showing them pictures of the Prophet Muhammad. He is beheaded. Okay? His head is cut off. This teacher's head is cut off of his body. Now, in reaction to this, France actually made some moves, and they shut down some mosques that were known as hotbeds for breeding extremists, including some people related to, ideologically or theocratically, however, related to the guy that committed this horrific crime. And it was perhaps that backlash, that standing up for themselves, that preventing this occurring again in the future, perhaps that is what inspired the second terrorist attack of a woman getting her head cut off in a cathedral in Nice. Okay, so this is the groundwork for what has happened, is that you have two terrorist attacks in which French citizens are beheaded by Muslims who were welcomed into their country as asylum seekers and as refugees. Now, you would think, from everything that we've heard, is that these extremists, these jihadis, they're a very small portion of Islam, and they're more dangerous to Muslims than anybody else, and the Muslims hate them as much as, even more than anybody else. But that's not what we're seeing, is it? We're seeing transnational, international, and in some cases global, with the former Prime Minister of Malaysia chiming in and saying millions of French deserve to die in the hands of Muslims. So what you're seeing is solidarity with the terrorists. What you're seeing is people demonstrating in major cities all over Europe by the hundreds for the terrorists, I guess, for the guy who cut the head off. I mean, you can tell me if you think there's something else they're demonstrating for, because it seems to me like what they're demonstrating for is in celebration of these terrorist attacks. And what they're doing is showing the European people, you are conquered. We can cut your heads off, and there's so many of us here now, there's nothing you can do about it. It's time to submit. That's what's happening in my eyes. To me, that's what seems like it's happening, because why else would these people be gathering in support of Muslims in France following a terrorist attack? Am I missing something here? Is there something I'm not getting? Because they're not coming together and saying, hey, we're Muslim, but we'd never do that. And we're going to stand in solidarity with France and solidarity with Germany. We're here for your free speech, and we love all that stuff. And that's not what they're doing. They're demonstrating to celebrate the terrorism, unless I'm crazy. But I want to go to this final clip, because this maybe is the most important one, and this is outside the French embassy in London. So make no mistake, this isn't a random demonstration. This is in front of the French embassy in London. Tell me what you hear. Clip number 4. That sign that they're holding, to me, is the most important thing to consider in all of this. Because what did that sign say? It said, insult is not freedom of speech. So you have all these people all over the world saying, it's kind of weird, isn't it, that leftists and liberals who define themselves by, deviant sexual practices and all this other stuff, how are they cooperating with Muslims? That doesn't make any sense. This is the religion that throws gay people off a building. This doesn't make any sense. Well, because they have overlapping interests in obtaining power through censorship. It's not about insulting, it's about power. It's not about decency, it's about power. This is very interesting to me. Insulting is not free speech. It's the same refrain that you hear from people celebrating a terrorist attack in France, and the same people with blue hair and socialism on the mind here in America. Finally, this just broke here in the last couple seconds. A New Orleans police officer has been ambushed in the French Quarter by a man in a pedicab. The officer has been shot in the face. Not a lot of more information here, but it seemed to be a totally unforeseen and unprompted attack. A police officer in New Orleans has been shot in the face. This may be the beginning, folks. Election day on Tuesday.